Hello, algoriters. It's Friday night, and guess what? Usually it's ladies' night, but not tonight because we have one legal beagle joining us, Counselor Carter. But we'll get to the legal beagle shortly. Welcome to the Celebrity Court of Public Opinion. I'm your judge, Al Reynolds, and today we're diving into legal battles that have captured headlines and divided public opinion concerning celebrities, politics, and yes, social issues. I'm joined by our esteemed legal beagles who will break down all of these celebrity cases and the politics surrounding it as we'll be discussing and help you navigate the legal landscape and understand the pitfalls to avoid. Please help me welcome joining us tonight. We have our entertainment attorney, Ashley Valenzuela. Counselor Valenzuela, welcome back to the Court of Public Opinion.
Thanks for having me, Your Honor. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. Joining Counselor Valenzuela will also be our humorist at law. Yeah, you heard it right. Humorist at law, attorney Sean Carter. Welcome back to the Court of Public Opinion.
Happy to be here. Happy to see Ashley as a brunette this week. Next week she's probably going to be redhead. I can't wait to see that. I'm looking forward. I'll put it on my calendar.
Right, boy, she keeps it mixed up here for sure. But she is an entertainment attorney, and she definitely keeps us entertained. And last but not least, let's welcome one of our newest members of the Legal Beagle family here at the Celebrity Court of Public Opinion, Counselor Brittany Porter. Welcome to the Court of Public Opinion.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. Now, Brittany Porter, her specialty is real estate law. And for those new to the Court of Public Opinion, we know that we always pick an emoji. And Brittany has said that she would like for her emoji to be a unicorn. So be sure to throw a unicorn in that chat for Brittany. Don't forget to throw in the laughing emoji for Sean Carter and the queen crown for Is This Legal Queen or the Legal Queen LA. And don't forget to throw in the fax emoji for me for all our algoriters. All right, court is now in session. Each case will be read, followed by a lawyer's insight, and we'll take your questions. Don't forget you're our juror, so you get the chance to weigh in as well. At the end, we'll deliver our verdict on whether these celebrities are guilty or innocent in the Court of Public Opinion. First up, Trump's birthright citizenship promise. All right. Trump is saying birthright citizenship, even though it is enshrined in the 14th Amendment, which grants citizenship to all persons born or naturalized in the United States, may be coming to an end. Ending this will require either a constitutional amendment or a Supreme Court ruling that reinterprets the amendment. And we know that he has appointed a lot of our Supreme Justice. Attorney Carter, please talk to us about what this means if he's going to denaturalize our naturalized immigrants.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to get away with it. He might try. And interestingly enough, the Supreme Court has ruled on this before. Now, they ruled on it in 1898. All right. And so, that was a few years ago. And back then, it was just a couple of years ago. But they had a case back then involving a Chinese immigrant. His parents had lived here as, and went back to China. They had their son while they were here, moved back to China, tried to come back in the country. They said, no, you can't come back. And so the case actually went to Supreme Court. They point out and say, wait a minute, we got this 14th Amendment here that says that, anyone born here is a citizen. And they tried to argue that, no, it was weird. You have to be born here as a citizen or naturalized, and you have to be subject to the jurisdiction of the U.S. And what they tried to argue was, well, you're not subject to the jurisdiction of the U.S. And the court said, no, he is subject to the jurisdiction of the U.S. Because if he commits a crime, we're going to lock him up here. He's not like a diplomat. Right. And one like that episode of What's Happening. And so he said, and so in a nutshell, the Supreme Court said, no, if you're born here, you are a citizen. However, there were two justices in that opinion who said, nah, maybe not. They were obviously some of the more racist ones. By the way, in 1898, that's not saying a lot. All right. But they said, no. We don't think that, we think you might have some allegiance to China still. And so, we're going to say that maybe you don't get full what's the term again?
Citizenship.
You don't get full citizenship. You're not subject to the jurisdiction if you might have some allegiance elsewhere. That's a BS argument, because the reason that the other people aren't citizens is because they're literally not subject to our laws. So as you know, if you're a diplomat and you commit a crime, you don't get charged here. They might send you back to your country, but if you are born here as a person, you get charged with everything. You don't have any immunity, so you should get all the rights of citizenship. It's bogus. I think Brittany was saying more and can say more how Trump has been trying this for a while. This is some of the stuff he says on the stump. That's never going to happen. But his people don't care. As long as you say it, it's good.
Attorney Porter, what are your thoughts on this? Because it seems to me, this is a big ticket for him. This is a big item on his reelection ticket. After he got reelected, all over social media, he said that he's going to do a mass deportation. What does this actually mean? And I can't imagine how would the process happen, and who would it happen to? That's what I want to know specifically. Like, who is in danger's way as it relates to his new policy or his new campaign for mass deportation?
Yeah, so I'll start off by saying that it's absolutely disgusting to penalize children for the choices of their parents. This policy that Trump has concepts of an idea of would involve him coming after children whose parents, one of those parents still does not have full citizenship. So any child who was born rightfully and naturally in the United States, who under the 14th Amendment would be considered a citizen, is now subject to have that citizenship revoked because one of their parents is an illegal immigrant. However, like I said, you don't really expect much from Trump. The only way to change the birthright citizenship, because it's guaranteed through the Constitution, would be an amendment to the Constitution, which is very hard to do. And without getting involved in the details of the process of ratifying the Constitution, let's just say that when Trump says that he's looking into it, that's all he's going to do. And that's all he's proven to do, because over the years, all he does is talk. Back in 2015, when he was interviewing with Bill O'Reilly over at Fox News, he reported that the issue was being fully vetted and it's an act of Congress. Then in 2018, in an interview with Axios, he said that all it required was an executive order, but that order never happened. And then in 2019, he told reporters that he was looking very, very seriously into the issue and issuing an executive order. And as we know, that never happened. And then in late 2020, after he lost the election, he declared that within the final weeks of his administration, he would actually pass that same executive action order that he'd been talking about for the past 4 years. And again, it never happened. So in other words, when he had the opportunity as president, Trump spoke multiple times about it and never did anything. And I don't believe he's ever going to pull the trigger. I think this is a whistle call to his base, who used this to support him in the election that just occurred. Right. However, I just believe we're going to continue to be talking about this issue for years to come. Got it.
Attorney Valenzuela, I don't know what you're obviously, in order to be a lawyer, you have to be a U.S. citizen, but your family, you're first generation here, correct? Tell me this, because it sounds to me that he's using this campaign to deter immigration.
Right.
Right? It's not like
qualified. He's deterring brown immigration.
Okay.
Because the white immigration is where he found his wife.
Right.
He's not worried about that. He's worried about the Mexican border and bringing back the Muslim ban. And apparently, that's the first thing he's going to do on his first day back at work in January. And it includes, round the clock deportation flights and work raids and detention camps again. So if he is serious about this, and because it is most of his election drive,
right,
mentioned, if it is serious, that is what it could look like again, those camps.
It's just so interesting to me. Thank you for sharing that. It's so interesting to me because this sounds very Hitler-like. It sounds very dictatorship like, and it just
sounds like that wall he was supposed to build that never got built. I don't put too much into Trump when it comes to this matter, because we're talking about deporting millions of people. It's a very costly process because you can't just take someone out of the United States. They have to go through the immigration court process, and then thereafter they're removed from the country. So not only do you have to add to the current legal system to be able to process all those cases, but then you're talking about the fuel, the cost of extraditing people, the staff that would have to be hired in order to get this done. Like, it's no.
That's why sorry.
I apologize, Your Honor. When I was researching, they estimated something like this would cost close to $1 trillion. It's 900 something billion for an action like this to be fully seen out. And they would do it under something that hasn't been done since World War II. Which was the Alien Enemies Act, to literally get, Russian spies and Japanese and Italian and all these people out of America. And that has not been done or seen or thought of or heard of since World War II. And that's it's terrifying.
Well, you know what? It's so interesting. It plays into his fear mongering for sure. And I'm sure there are immigrants that are here that may be illegal, who thought that they were okay, that now they cannot sleep at night. Now they are really trying to decide what they're going to do. And speaking of fear mongering, next up, election day drama. There were beat threats, arrests, and legal challenges at the election polls. There were both, well, can't say that word, but we're going to call it beat threats. There were arrests and there were legal disputes. Let's talk about voter safety and polling place security and the legal consequences of election day disruption. Attorney Carter, tell us, what is that all about? Is it considered election interference, which we know is a federal law? Is this a federal crime, state crime? Which would it be? Which would it certify with these beat threats?
So it's going to be both. It's going to be a state crime. Anytime you were to threaten violence, that's going to be a state matter. And then you have the election interference, which is a federal matter. And maybe basically anything becomes a federal matter if you use the internet, the phones, right? Then you've been communicating interstate commerce, and therefore everything becomes a federal matter. So you got two people to worry about. And so anyone who's caught with these threats is going to jail. Interestingly enough, the suspicion so far is that it might have been a lot of Russian bots or the Russians trying to, just sow discord here, because not only were the emails that these threats came in often from Russian servers, but they also were somewhat bipartisan. Now, most of them were against Democrats and Black people. Fulton County, Atlanta, Philadelphia. But even here in Arizona, there was a Republican county that got 4 bomb threats. So
they must have got the zip codes mixed up.
Well, trust me, they weren't going to find a black zip code here. So they didn't try close enough. They would have a whole county, so maybe they thought that was close enough. They were
Attorney Porter. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. If you have any type of, and this is my understanding, if you have any type of polling threats, anything at that location, you could be charged as a terrorist act, correct?
That is very much so correct.
Wow. So in these voter intimidation, even though they hide it as a voter intimidation, they could be charged if it's tracked back, right, to a U.S. citizen or directed by a U.S. citizen. They could be charged with terrorist threats, or if we find out that it's a Russian group, just like last time with Trump's election, where he used the Russian influence, if you would, on Facebook, who would be charged in this particular case for the federal crime?
So in that case, it would be all parties involved. I mean, I can't recall the name of the city, but there was one mayor, I want to say maybe it's somewhere up north, where police chief, and he straight up told the public, F around and find out. We're not playing these games.
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia,
That's right.
yeah. And so when it comes to these types of acts, similar to the people that thought it was a smart idea on January the 6th to go raid the Capitol, no, you're going to F around and find out and find yourself prosecuted in federal prison.
Wow. Now tell me this, because this is kind of like interference. Is this similar to the same case with those African American women in Georgia? I think we were talking about this in the chambers, where Rudy Giuliani had made defamatory comments about them, and now he owes them like $150 million, if not 200. Is that similar as election interference or no?
That's a little different. That was when they were arguing that they were trying to stop the steal. Remember that nonsense? And so part of their arguments was that these poll workers had changed the votes. The Biden votes came in, they scribbled them out and put Trump.
Isn't that election interference?
No, that I mean, if someone were caught doing that, I guess that would be. But in his case, it was just a matter. It wasn't election interference for making those charges. It was defamation. He lied on them.
Got it.
They impugn their character, right? And so they actually said, "Hey, you owe me money for defamation. $150 million is a lot. You can defame me for about $14.50." And I mean, $14.
I know.
I've been defamed for free a lot. Let my wife come in here, all right? But the point is, though, I ain't mad at him. But Rudy, if you out there, all right, and you want to talk some stuff about me, we can settle out of court. So go ahead.
Exactly. You know what I thought so interesting about this is that judge was not messing around. That judge was like that police chief in Philadelphia. He was like, F around and you will find out. Like, he is not letting up. He's making Rudy Giuliani actually sell his assets, like his home in New York City, where millions and millions of dollars. They're like making him like basically liquidate all of his accounts in order to pay those women. It's so good to see. I'm really excited about that. Okay, so as it relates to like the bomb threat, the B threats, the arrests, and the legal challenges, what does it actually mean? Has anybody given us an official statement as it relates to this? Anybody?
What do you mean by official statement? From whom?
Has anybody from the White House spoke about it? Has anybody come up with any type of, pointing the fingers of who it could be involved, et cetera, et cetera?
Like I said earlier, there's some reports or some suspicion that it was, the Russians, but we don't know that it wasn't just U.S. people using the Russian servers as well. Hopefully they'll investigate more. We'll see. They better investigate before January 20th. I know that.
All right.
Because Trump ain't gonna worry about it
after that, right? All right. Speaking of investigations, let's keep it going and let's talk about some celebrity drama and some legal battles. DDG, welcome to the court of public opinion. Halle Bailey versus DDG, the fallout over the sons appearing on Kai Cenat's live stream. Halle Bailey recently deleted her social media after DDG allowed their son to appear on Kai Cenat's live stream without her consent. Bailiff, can I see a video of this, please?
I keep telling people. Shit, I'm not gonna lie. He looked just like Daryl, bro. Damn. Oh my gosh. It's Halo himself, live in the flesh. Yeah, now, Halo. You don't know this, but I'm your uncle. You feel what I'm saying? I'm your uncle. When you were born and stuff like that, I got to see, your dad reveal you and stuff. So it's a pleasure to meet you, Halo.
Shake him up.
So, Halo's like, who is this guy?
He be chilling. Like, he really calm. He just woke up though.
How it feel being a dad though?
I ain't gonna lie, it still feel kind of fake.
Really?
A little bit, but.
Bro, you got a son, bro.
Yeah, you gotta have one.
All right, Bailiff.
When do you think?
All right, I'm gonna throw to you, Attorney Porter, because we were talking about this in the chambers, because this is kind of the same situation with Kenya and her ex-husband, and he wanted to not have their child shown on the Real Housewives of Atlanta, the show. Now, legally, I thought that both parents usually have a say in decisions affecting their child's public exposure, especially if both parents are celebrities. What say you?
Yeah, so for example, in that case with Mark and Kenya, usually, or 9 times out of 10, it requires both parents to consent to any media release or filming of the child. But in the instant action, first of all, there's no such thing as overreacting when it comes to your child, like point blank period. When Kanye said that he didn't want his kids on the internet, Black Twitter rallied behind him and, had pitchforks ready to burn him down. But when Halle, a Black woman, says the same thing, she's become the devil. And so it's asinine to me how we're making this postpartum mother feel bad for being upset that her baby's father didn't tell her that he was going to put the baby on a stream that just got swatted a week ago. I mean, come on. There's no need for her to walk that back. Like we saw in the video, he showed up with the baby in a tote bag like it was a laptop instead of a carrier. I mean, he didn't overreact. He didn't stop treating that baby like an accessory, point blank period. But I will say, to the other side's defense, Halle, baby girl, what did you think would happen when you procreated with a YouTuber?
Oh.
Baby's on YouTube now.
And the truth comes out, right?
Yeah. Is it a legal issue? though. It's not a legal issue though. It's a disagreement between two people who just broke up. There's no divorce agreement. There's no custody agreement. There's no, like, Bambi and Scrappy, they had a divorce and they put in the agreement, you cannot post our kids online unless we both agree to it. That is a legal document. That's legally binding. Guess what? The DDG and Halle, they just broke up 2 weeks ago. Even if there were some type of agreement that they had already signed, it would take, you have to file it. You have to go in front of the court. It has to be executed. It has to be negotiated. These things take a lot of time. And just because you don't agree that your baby should be online, and granted, they hid the baby from the world for quite some time. It was known that he was to be kept private, but then he got posted and then they started making memes of it. But just because they disagree on it, there's no legal action that she can take right now until she decides to put some type of custody agreement or some type of other arrangement in place on paper, because right now she's just upset that he was on it.
Yeah, but but the good thing, that's a good point. But also you got to understand that there's something called impact of the welfare of the child, right? And we know in past legal cases, if we look at precedents and we look at case study, we know that a lot of people have argued that it's the psychological well-being of the child being put in the public eye at such a young age and what effect that could have. Now, if for him, we would want him to just be a half an ounce smart to know if you're going through a breakup, right? There's going to be clearly custody battles as well as child support. So he's really not building a good case for himself. And all she has to do if she gets a good lawyer is she could win full-time custody by his actions with the child, putting the child underage at that age on a huge platform, being a celebrity after, now remember, especially after you hid the child for months? Because you wanted your privacy rights protected. What say you, Attorney Carter?
I agree with Attorney Valenzuela in the sense that, I don't know if there's a legal case here. Unless there's a state law, each parent gets to choose that. I don't know about you, but my wife posts some pictures of me, all right, or on social media. I didn't say nothing about it. Same thing with the kids, all right? I've seen a lot of people. I can't imagine you got to get a written waiver from your spouse to say, hey, we want to post the kids' first day of school pictures, right? So generally speaking, now, Halle, she felt some kind of way about it. Totally get that, right? I feel some kind of way about the fact that I thought when you first told me about this, it was Halle Berry. And I spent 2 hours researching Halle Berry and DDG. And the internet told me she wasn't dating that fool. So Halle can change her name, and that would help all of us. Also, the other thing is, and this is what Halle said I thought was really cool. And I respected her to that. Because when she took her stuff down, she didn't say I was wrong. I shouldn't have been mad. She simply said, I shouldn't have taken it to social media. And that, by the way, is something that we all can learn from. That's not even legal advice. That's life advice. You get mad at your spouse, you need to talk to them about it. And here's why. Because you're going to forgive them. But then the rest of us going to be mad at your spouse.
Right. That's true.
And so if you have a dispute, call them. If you're not talking to each other, call your lawyers or whatever. But you don't need to be having this on social media. And by the way, I'm talking to Will and Jada. I know you watching. All right, we don't need to see no more of your mess. All right, y'all need to talk this out off. I don't need to see no red table. All right, red tablecloth. I don't want to see nothing near because y'all be messy. All right, keep your messy inside in house. You gonna go back with him anyway. And then and by the way, I'm talking to you too, Cardi B and Offset. Y'all need to keep it. All right, we enjoying it, but come on.
But isn't there? I thought that there was a privacy in celebrity children's. Like I thought there were different laws surrounding celebrity children. Is that not true, or is that only true after? Is that only after you have a legal document in place addressing it?
Think about how would you define what a celebrity is in our side? You don't get that on your birth certificate, right? Hakua Girl is a celebrity this week. All right, she's gonna be a celebrity next week though, so you that's not really a thing.
Okay, all right.
Rights around the children and social media is based upon children's use of social media. So once Halo's 5 years old and he has Instagram, then that could be policed because you can't have social media. I think the age is 13 where you're able to consent to getting on these apps.
Judge, the only implication, and you did make a good point, there could be an implication with regard to custody agreement. Like you said, and maybe the attorney Porter said this, if it turns out, like you said, he had the baby in the duffel bag, he's talking about being a parent is fake. He had him in Kai Cenat's nasty house. All right. I'm pretty sure, I'm not gonna say this. Allegedly, I wouldn't be surprised if he had a couple of bottles of baby oil in the house somewhere. All right, that's all I'm saying. I ain't saying he did it, but it could be. All right, Kai, if you're out there, I ain't saying you did it. I'm just simply saying it's probably slippery on your floor. But the point is that you don't want that baby nowhere near the floor. All right, so she could say, hey, she took him over that nasty house, and maybe I should get most of the custody, which I agree. By the way,
well, I mean, she's got plenty of examples of there being some type of callous movement as two celebrities together that could put the child in harm's way. So, I mean, that's why I said he probably just needs to be a little bit smarter. He needs to be a little bit smarter. And it's just not as simple as going to see a very well-known worldwide YouTuber and showing your child and being there. You can't move like you used to move when you weren't a father. All right, talking about moving like how you can't used to not move, Plies, well, actually, Megan Thee Stallion, Cardi B, Glorilla, and Soulja Boy, welcome to the court of public opinion. Plies versus Megan Thee Stallion, Cardi B, Glorilla, and Soulja Boy is over the battles over sampling rights. Plies has filed a lawsuit against some of hip-hop's biggest names over sampling rights, claiming his song was used without his permission. Attorney Valenzuela, you are an entertainment attorney. Talk to us about copyright law and the complexities of this thing called music sampling.
So music law is actually, I don't know how much anybody knows. It's very complicated. It's very convoluted. There's so many different avenues. But specifically here, we have a copyright infringement issue. And these cases are a little bit tricky and hard to prove no matter which side you're on. Because copyright law, you have to go to the copyright.gov. You have to file your copyright. If you don't do those things, then you don't have a claim. But what that allows you to do is you have the right to perform. You have the right to reproduce, which includes sampling, remixing. You can, do from Me and My Goons to Pretty Boy Swag, whichever the songs may be. You can do those things if you get permission. And if you don't have permission from the person who owns that copyright, no matter what you used, whether it was one lyric or one part of the beat, it could be 5 seconds. That could be copyright infringement if the owner decides to press the issue. So in this case, apparently there was some sort of verbal agreement between Plies and Soulja Boy from long ago. The song came out in 2008. And whenever Soulja Boy decided to remix it, he asked for permission and they talked about it. That agreement is no longer valid according to Plies. And to add fire to the flames, Cardi and Meg and Glorilla remixed it as well. So now he's looking at, oh, I made this song in 2008. I'm supposed to be making money off of it. But now all these other people who never asked me for permission to use it are making my money off of my beat, whether they used his lyrics or not. There's no formula or recipe that's okay to use from someone else's content, essentially. So what they're saying now is, y'all all owe me a chunk of the change that you made off of my beat. I know that was a lot, so hit me.
So it was a sample, right? So did the ladies do a collaboration and they made one song, or did each lady make a different song?
So I know Meg Thee Stallion and Glorilla, they made one song called Wannabe, and then later they added Cardi B on a remix. So of course Soulja Boy is just on his own, but what the women did is they collaborated amongst each other. They did not say, hey, Plies, can you be on this song? Can you work with us? Can you come in the studio? Or alternatively, they did not go through all the right channels to ask for permission to sample the record. And that is absolutely crucial. And a lot of people in the music industry, they have this weird backwards misconception that if someone's suing me because my song is making so much money, I made it. No, buddy, nobody should be wanting to get sued just because your song went viral for using someone else's intellectual property. That if it makes money, that's great, but you're going to lose it all because the copyright law is strict. You know, you don't have the right to do it unless you get the permission from the owner.
Got it. So let me ask you this. If he does pull this off, because from what I hear from you, it's like this is going to be a pretty hard battle to win, right? But if he does pull this off, how could this case change the way artists and producers sample moving forward?
So I think it should change the way that things are. Recently, there's been a lot of changes in copyright law altogether to make it harder to win claims like this. Because, like I said, there's no recipe, whether you use 2 seconds of someone else's movie or song, it's still copyright infringement without permission. So if he wins on this, I think it will make folks a little bit less eager to continue using all these samples, because people use samples every single day. Almost every record has a sample of some song that no one ever heard from the 70s or the 60s or the 90s. And if they just put it out, that's fine. But once they're making money off of it, that's where the lawsuit comes into play, because you can release things on your social media you're not putting out for the market. But I think this will make things a little bit I want it to make artists a little bit more willing to have these conversations before they put music like this out. It's not that hard to, you can make the record, you can have all this creative energy and it sounds great, but you have to reach out to the appropriate parties and say, hey, do you like this song? Can I put it out? Am I allowed? And then you wouldn't have this problem.
Yeah, but I think the issue with that is that most artists who, feel like a big artist is sampling their stuff, they view it as a cash payout, right? So they might not be willing to allow it so easily.
For people like Plies, or for the people getting sued?
For the people that like Plies. Like, for instance, if they were to reach out to Plies before, say if Cardi B's people called Plies and said, hey, can we sample XYZ? Right? He has to say yes or no, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? If he says yes, he goes on the credits, he gets paid.
Yep.
All right? If they don't ask and they do it, then he has to go after them and prove copyright infringement, correct?
Yep, correct.
But they could also just re-record the sample. That would bypass the the copyright ownership part, and then at that point they just have to deal with the publisher. Not saying that that's an easy task, but it gets them halfway there. And then Ashley, I believe, aren't there music libraries where they clear samples, or they provide samples that it can easily be licensed? So I just get confused as to why this continues to be an issue when people
because they're doing it. And I don't know why people at this level, Megan, Soulja Boy, Cardi, I don't know why people at this level aren't doing this. And it's not the people themselves. You know, I'm sure they're not just like, oh, I need to get this sample cleared. Their record label is literally what they do.
They need to hire Beyonce's people, because isn't that what happened with her and Khalees?
Nobody messes with Beyonce.
And
no, Khalees tried to, and she quickly learned she didn't own the copyright.
Right.
Pharrell owned it, and Pharrell had agreed to allow Beyonce to use it on her track, but because of the issues, Beyonce removed it. And it was just
wow.
Simple.
And it's upsetting, because people at this level should not have these issues. In 2024, they should have legal counsel. They should have A&Rs. They should have even the producer who was making it, like, oh yeah, bro, go ask Plies. I'm sure he'll be super excited that they want to remake his 2008 song in 2024. I'm sure he would have said yes. Shout out to Florida. Like, there's no way that you can be in these positions and not do things correctly. But there's people like Drake who copyright Vogue and say it's okay to be sued because he's willing to deal with that. If you're willing to deal with that because you want to put out your art, that's fine. But you're signing up to get your money took and for people to come
and we should be clear about that. We're not talking about just a little bit of your money took. All right. They don't take it all. So give you an example. I looked at a couple of cases in the past. In NWA, 2 seconds of a song from Funkadelic, they stole for 100 miles of running. Now remember, that's a long song. 100 miles of running is like 100 hours in running. All right. It's a long song, but 2 seconds cost them millions. Same thing. And by the way, this is what we all understand, because a lot of times on the internet, you'll post a video, you're on the gram, you got the music in the background, all that stuff. Do not mess with Sting. All right. You don't even have, I don't know how to say this. Don't have none of the Sting songs on. My understanding is, I know with, for instance, Blurred Lines, Sting took $5.5 million from Pharrell and Alan Thicke and gets 50% of the money from now on. He took 85% from Juice WRLD, because they took a little bit, sampled his song. And I heard, and I don't know if it's true, Diddy pays Sting $2,000 a day.
Woo!
I heard
for
that.
Every breath you take. For the song with I guess it wasn't, but it was a song for when Biggie.
I miss you.
Yeah, I miss you. When Biggie was killed, $2,000 a day. Now I went to public school. I can't do the math, but that's a lot of money. All right, I did the math. It's $730,000 a year. Sting is the only one mad Diddy in jail because he wanted his $2,000 a day. All right, $2,000 a day. So if you do learn nothing from this podcast, from this video, please do not mess with Sting.
All right, the gay family does not play.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. If you're watching tonight's show and you're enjoying it, be sure to throw some of those emojis. The laughing emoji for Attorney Carter, the Queen crown for Attorney Valenzuela, and for Porter, the unicorn, as well as for myself, the fax machine. Be sure to hit that like button. Also, hit that subscribe button. If you're already subscribed, please be sure to hit that share button and invite some friends to come over and watch the show with you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications so that you can get all of the good happenings that will be happening on my YouTube channel, as well as the changes that we're making here on the Celebrity Court of Public Opinion. And always, as always, don't forget to drop down in the comments and share with us your thoughts about the show, as well as any questions that you may have about any of the cases that we're talking about. As we rotate away from celebrity legal issues, let's talk about some social and legal accountability. First up, justice for Sonya Massey. When law enforcement fails to police their own. The Sonya Massey case has raised concerns about police accountability and the consequences of failing to hold officers responsible for misconduct. Attorney Carter, talk to us about this Sonya Massey case and why is it so significant?
All right, just to recap everybody, it just happened in July in Springfield, Illinois. 36-year-old Sonya Massey called the police to report a suspected intruder. The police show up. They interact with her in some way. And at one point, she's standing by the stove near a pot of boiling water. The officer, for some reason, gets incredibly agitated, wants her to step away. She doesn't step away fast enough for his liking. And sadly, he I can't say it probably here on YouTube, but he does the thing. And unfortunately, she's been unalived. Originally, the police do what they always do. They say, "Oh, it was no problem. It was justified." The videos that a lot of us have seen, you can find them anywhere on the internet, don't seem to indicate that at all. All right, this doesn't seem to be a situation where his life was at all in danger, and as a result, he was fired by the police force shortly thereafter. The police union originally says, "Oh no, we got to support our guy," but even after a while, they said, "You know what? He's on his own." He's been charged with first-degree murder and aggravated assault. He's awaiting trial. And so we're just going through this. I think, from our standpoint, the purpose to point this out is that a lot of times, especially with the election, whatever, we forget this continual problem we have with the police using excessive force, particularly with regard to people of color in encounters. This is a woman who calls him to her home. This isn't some situation where they're dealing with a suspected, criminal, if someone's committed a felony, they're trying to report a crime. And as still, we end up seeing this problem all the time. And the sad part is we kind of, in the last 4 or 5 years, haven't been really paying attention to it a lot, sadly. But I did look at the numbers. The number of police shootings has increased every year since 2016, including, by the way, the pandemic year. Nobody was even out in the streets. And somehow they found a way to
kill more of us.
Kill more. It's crazy. And so, this case needs to be talked about more. Hopefully the right thing happens, justice happens here, but it's not really justice for anybody, right? In the sense that, he goes to jail, but she still doesn't come back. Her family might get a settlement, but it's not really justice. We need to have a situation where the police are better handle these situations and don't just assume that every person of color is a lethal threat to them.
Right. Now, Attorney Porter, let me ask you this, because this is what I understand. Can't she, right, if they prove that there was some type of police misconduct, can't they file a federal civil rights lawsuit for wrongful death or excessive force, which triggers the lawsuit to be paid by that particular police department's insurance policy surrounding wrongful death and civil rights lawsuits?
Yes, that is correct. And let me first start off by saying, I love the police. If something goes wrong, who am I supposed to call? Batman? I want to be able to call the police force. That's what they're there for. The problem that we're seeing today is the use of excessive force due to implicit bias when it comes to the policing of Black and brown communities. And the guaranteed solution for addressing this problem in the immediacy is to create some sort of national registry for police misconduct, because what we're seeing is police officers who engage in these acts, they're not being prevented from evading the consequences of their actions by the fact that they're able to move to different jurisdictions and reassume the position and the powers and the duties that they previously had. I mean, with the incident, Officer Grayson, he had 2 prior DUI convictions. He was reprimanded previously for lying and making inaccurate reports. There was an issue regarding some high-speed pursuit. So this isn't some guy that had a clean record that just happened to have this one-off situation. No, this is a guy who, if you looked at his record, you're not even surprised at how he got here. I'll even say, when I first started off as an attorney, I was a plaintiff side employment litigator. And my first case in 2019 was against the City of Beverly Hills police chief, which was Police Magnolia at the time. And the interesting thing about that case was the police chief had just come in to the City of Beverly Hills. Previously, she was in some city of North where she served as a chief before moving to Beverly Hills, which red flag number 1, right? And in the instant matter, she was being sued. There was over 20 complaints against her, not from members of the community. These police forces have issues within their own departments. It was other police officers or staff members of the City of Beverly Hills Police Department that were suing her for issues regarding racist remarks, anti-Semitism, attacks against the LGBTQ community, engagement in sexual affairs with subordinate officers. And again, this is a situation where this isn't something new or a one-off situation with this police chief. She moved from up north because she was having those problems up north and came to Beverly Hills to have a clean record. But here we go again, because we don't have these national registries, it's hard for jurisdictions, for bureaus to pick up on these bad apples who are tarnishing, you know, the reputation of the men and women in the blue force. You know, so again, it's not an attack on police officers. People love the police. That's who we look to in times of need. What the issue is these cops who are allowed to engage in these actions in attacks on communities of color are being allowed to continuously get away with it through the simple fact that they can just hop from jurisdiction to jurisdiction.
For jurisdiction, that's true. That's true. You see a lot of that too, especially when they go on an investigation. You learn, oh, this wasn't the first time. They killed somebody in Nevada. They choked up, other black people in Vegas, like all that. It's like, really? And how were they able to recycle back to another precinct? Okay, speaking of social issues and controversies, I want us to talk quickly, really briefly, as we round out almost to our last discussion. The racist text messages referencing slavery sparks investigation across multiple states. And yep, you heard me right. Disturbing racist text messages referencing slavery have emerged, prompting investigation and raising concerns about hate speech. In fact, the role of law enforcement and the FBI is being brought in to address this very hate speech oriented text messages. Attorney Carter, talk to us about what's going on with these text messages.
This is how text messages work. Sadly, in the 21st century, as far as the hate speech and the real issue here, you know, we're going to see some increase of this after the results of the election. Some people are going to feel more emboldened to say what they were going to say before. To the extent, it's interesting because, you know, you have the conflict between hate speech and the First Amendment. And generally speaking, you kind of have a right to be as racist and as horrible as you want to be to people. It's going to be interesting going forward because in recent years we passed hate speech laws. It said you can't do this, you can't say this, but those are often, you know, not the most serious crimes. There's hate crimes. Now, if you commit a crime, if you say the N-word while punching somebody, that's a different issue. But generally speaking, yelling at someone or saying something bad to them has not been the most serious enforced crime. And on a federal level, I'm sure whatever protections there were will be, you know, pushed back by the administration. I know they're already talking about issues in that regard, but there's still state laws. And to the extent they're there, Trump has nothing to do with those state laws. That's why, like, I saw a lot of people in the comments were worried about the policing and what's going to happen there. That's not going to be so much a federal issue. Trump has actually talked about having qualified immunity, which might affect the federal lawsuits you were talking about, Judge, but they won't affect the state lawsuits. I saw, for instance, Trump is representing Massey, Attorney Trump.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to sue in state court, and they're going to get their money there. All right, and so, you know, Trump is going to have limited effect. He'll try to have what he can, but he will have limited effect because there's still state laws that he has nothing to do with.
So once again, it's the fear mongering.
Right.
The fear mongering to sway his constituents to vote because they like to hear that type of stuff.
And people's lack of understanding of how federalism works.
Right. And like propaganda. I think that was a huge ticket that he ran on. Like, who knew? I didn't know the ins and outs of the mass deportation until we talked about it in the chambers. I thought that was like for anybody who would be considered, you know, an immigrant, that an illegal immigrant.
No, and like it was pointed out, really, that's for people coming across the southern border for the most part. When they do these roundups, assuming that they ever happen, they might not. It won't be. They won't be going to find, you know, Eastern Europeans that came over. It'll be people, and that's the scary part. They're going to be looking for brown people.
It's a brown deportation.
And the worst part is, if you want to do 11 million people, you're not going to be very selective. All right, you're going to be going after anybody who looks kind of like that. And I always tell my kids now, carry your papers. I don't carry mine because I'm 6'4". I'm kind of tall. I think I can pass for black. But for my kids, some of them are short. I'm like, you need to carry your papers with you, boy. And fortunately, they talk like white kids, so we be all right. We wear a cardigan sweater, they're gonna be all right. But
all that money you spend on them.
Yeah, but it's gonna be. It is gonna be. You know, it could get scary.
Yeah, it seems like even if it doesn't, it's going to have to, because once again, it's the fear mongering. It's like really people are going to be overreacting across the board. I mean, I don't know how this is going to end up good. All right, everybody, this is the time of the show that we go to you, the jury, to see which questions you have for the panel. First up, let's see who we got. Lady Chalet. Why not go through the proper channels? Seems as if their producers would have known this.
And they probably did. Everybody knows this song. Even if you didn't know the name of Plies songs, everybody have heard beat, beat, beat. It's a very specific beat. Every producer who's produced the record knows where it came from. So that's what I'm saying. People at this level cannot afford to make these mistakes, because if it's someone like me and I made a sample and I put it out, no one's listening. I'm not making money off of it. But Cardi and Soulja and all these people, they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars. And at that level, the producer, the record label, it's not just against Cardi and Glow. It's against Universal Music Group. My first boss in my legal career in entertainment, he's actually his attorney. So he's going to make sure that Universal Music Group and Sony and Warner, whoever else is involved, Walter Mosley's not just suing Soulja Boy. I promise you. It's the record labels, could be the producer. There's going to be a lot of pointing fingers. He did it first. They did it next. It was his fault. It could get very, very, very messy, and it could drag on for a couple of years, just like the Aaliyah lawsuits and everything else. It's not going to be a quick battle, but Walter.
Got it. All right, next up, Dominic Brooks. They should have reached out to Plies. Maybe they didn't know it was his song. They know whose song is what song. They're smart now. They know whose song.
Yeah, is it possible though? And I don't know how music is made here, but I'm wondering if they're taking a beat from some other producer, some new producer or whatever, came and said, "Hey, I got this beat for you," and he sort of sampled it first, and then they incorporate that, etc., so that they don't really know where the origin of all this came from. They thought it came from this guy, but he had sampled a little bit there. Or is it the case that all these producers know everything?
No, that's very valid. That's very relevant to you. 9 times out of 10, it is going to be something maybe you found it on YouTube. Maybe someone sent it to you. Those things happen all the time. But if it's someone who's that big, like Marvin Gaye, the estate is going to find it. Like they have in all of these labels who are dedicated to the internet to find these things. So if you didn't know when it happened, you're gonna F around and find out. Comes to your door and you get served,
All right, next question from Tanya Kelly. How did the people who sent out the hate speech know their names of the people that they were sending the emails to, I'm assuming?
That's so scary. That's good. The FCC need to get to the bottom of this, because I want to know who's responsible.
Yeah, that'd be a good one, huh? All right, next up, Daniela Cameron. Why is it when Black women show emotions, it's always perceived to the extreme?
Stereotype.
Questions I need answers.
I plead the fifth, Your Honor. The fifth.
I see you gonna plead the fifth. Back to the last question. Dominic Brooks says, why would he do that and protect his baby? I would never put my kids up like that. That's probably what Halle's sitting back saying. Why would he do that? Why would he do that? What do you ladies think? Would you allow your child, if you were a superstar?
I think it's not so much about allowing the child to be publicized. it's more about just the lack of respect, because when you're in these co-parenting situations, there's no such thing as communication. You have to have over communication. And so this thing that he did with Kai, that didn't just come up last minute. It's something that he was aware of, something that he knew he wanted to do. And it takes just a simple phone call to Halle and say, hey, you know, this is what's up. Do you mind? And I'm pretty sure she would have agreed, and we would not be here today talking about this. So I just think in this instance, it's less so about the child being publicized, because like we've said, he's been on her TikTok. They both publish him on Instagram. It's just more of the lack of communication.
Yep.
Okay, got it. I think that's all of our questions. All right, we'll go to the part of the show where the judge and the lawyers will give their verdict. First up, Donald Trump in the mass deportation. Is he guilty or not guilty of trying to scare a particular racial composition group?
He guilty for having that tan, period.
At this point,
Attorney Carter, is he guilty?
He about to F you. He about to
Guilty or
F
not
around.
guilty?
He better not be in Arizona near the border. I know that. They'll take his butt over in a minute. But no, he's obviously guilty. He built a whole campaign in the presidency.
That's right.
On that. Guilty.
Attorney Brittany, is he guilty or not guilty?
He's guilty of a lot of things. You don't put too much past a convicted felon.
All right, Attorney Valenzuela, guilty or not guilty?
conviction number 40.
Right. Guilty or not guilty? All right, I'm Al. I'm the judge here in the court of public opinion. We're going to find Donald Trump guilty. Guilty is charged of putting the fear in somebody. This is going to be interesting to watch unveil. All right, next up, who do we have? Okay, next up, justice for Sonya Massey when law enforcement fails to police their own. Is that police department and police officer guilty or not guilty of violating her civil rights? Attorney Carter, what say you?
Extra guilty because of what we learned from Attorney Porter. It's one thing if you just have one, cop who loses his mind in one instance, but you got a guy who's a loose cannon and you put him back out in the street to terrorize new people in a new jurisdiction. That's double guilty. I'm hoping Attorney Crump is watching this because that'd be good for the jury to know too.
All right, Attorney Brittany, guilty or not guilty?
Very much so guilty, and they get no credit or respect for doing what was right post the incident, because we should have never been here in the first place, because he should have never been hired.
Gotcha. I agree. Attorney Valenzuela?
Guilty.
All right, I'm Al, and I'm the judge here in the court of public opinion. We're going to find him guilty as charged for all the wrongdoing. He had no reason for shooting that young lady. All right, next up, Megan Thee Stallion, Cardi B, Glorilla, and Soulja Boy. Are they guilty or not guilty of stealing Plies beats without his permission? Attorney Valenzuela.
And listen, Walter Mosley is on the case. They gonna be found guilty. They're guilty.
All right, Attorney Porter.
Definitely guilty. And like the words of my beloved Jackie from Basketball Wives, they're trying to assassinate character, and you gotta get attorneys to clear that SHIT up and do their homework to make sure they're not put in these situations in the first place. So come on.
All right, Attorney Carter.
They all guilty, but Megan Thee Stallion.
Why?
Because you seen Megan Thee Stallion? Now my wife is watching, by the way. Megan, she guilty too. But if you're not watching, baby, they all guilty but her.
All right, I'm Al, and I'm the judge here in the celebrity court of public opinion. And guess what? Megan Thee Stallion, including Megan Thee Stallion, Glorilla, Soulja Boy, Cardi B, you are all guilty. Nobody, I'm going to side with Plies forever. As hard as that man worked for the election, all the positive vibes he put out to get people out to go vote, and his support of Kamala Harris was unparalleled. So he will never be found guilty in my court. All right, next up, DDG, is he guilty or not guilty of exposing his young baby without Halle Bailey's consent? Attorney Valenzuela.
He is not guilty of anything but communication failure.
Attorney Porter?
I will add on to what Ashley said and add an additional charge for carrying that baby in that tote bag like a laptop. He's guilty of that, very much so.
So he's guilty.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Attorney Carter?
I'm gonna need to see the toxicology reports from Kai's water bottles before I make a decision on that one. That's all I'm saying.
All right, I'm Alan. I'm the judge here in the Celebrity Court of Public Opinion. We're going to find DDG guilty of just not being smart, dude. Like, you really got to be smarter, young man. I know you're rich. I know you're famous. I know you don't think it's a big deal. But when it comes to the court of law, when she wants to get custody, and then she wants to, use all these missteps to her benefit, she can. You're not protecting yourself, and you got to do better. All right, next up, who are we going to find guilty or not guilty for these racist texts? Are the Russians involved? Are they guilty or not guilty for sending out all of these racist text messages? Attorney Carter, what say you?
I'm going to say guilty. And here's the thing, somebody wrote it. I don't know who it is. By the way, you're not supposed to be using the N-word. All right. I don't even get to use the N-word, and I'm black. All right. So no, you can't do it. Guilty.
Attorney Valenzuela.
I don't know who did it, but they're guilty.
Definitely guilty. Attorney Porter.
Everybody's guilty. We all know. So the bullets have no names. Everyone's guilty.
I'm Alan. I'm the judge here in the Celebrity Court of Public Opinion, and we're going to find whoever sent those text messages guilty. Guilty is charged. And I wish these digital footprints, it shouldn't be hard to find out who's sending out these text messages. And I would like to see this to be one of the first hate speech digital footprint lawsuits that are in the millions. And everybody that got a text like this should get some money for the emotional distress that they had to go through. All right, everyone. As we close out today's show, I just want to remind everyone to be sure to turn on your notifications, because next week we're going to be talking about Kimora Lee Simmons and her legal battle over alleged forgery, fraud, and multi-million-dollar property dispute. Isn't that interesting? Because she's also in the middle of the P. Diddy case, as well as her ex-husband, Russell, who's also in the middle of some sexual assault cases. Also next week, we're going to talk about Tekashi 6ix9ine striking a plea deal. Even though prosecutors are recommending jail and probation, we're going to exactly see how that plays out. We're going to discuss Tiny and T.I. seeking payment from ex-friend Sabrina Peterson after winning the court case. We're also going to talk about Tory Lanez requests medical records release in his lawsuit over a 2021 car accident. So be sure to turn your notification on, because it's only going to get hotter here in the Court of Public Opinion. As we wrap up today's session, let's remember that the law is complex, and celebrity cases often bring their own very unique challenges, especially like with DDG. Who knew that it was such a big case to show your child or visit a friend and he'd be all over the internet? Our discussions have, as always, aimed to shed light on these issues to empower you, our viewers, with knowledge so that you know how to navigate the exact same issues in your own personal life. Thank you for your thoughtful questions and participation. Until next time, keep questioning, stay informed, and always remember, the Celebrity Court of Public Opinion is a powerful place where your voice can and will be heard. Court is now adjourned.